There we go. With us today, we have the Director of Service Planning, Davida Mueller, as well as Ian Sampson, Project Manager for the City of Tucson. So we're going to go ahead and let Davida get started. Please hold your questions to the end. We're going to go through a quick slides, and then we'll have a lot of time to answer questions and talk things over. All right, so go ahead and get started, Davida.
Hi, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Luz. Thank you for showing up at our meeting today. We're going to discuss the proposed discontinuation of Route 22. So Route 22 is the red dotted line, and this is the route that we're looking at discontinuing. We're also showing all the other routes because the next slide we're going to go through would be is if the Route 22 was approved as being discontinued, then we'll have other options in this area to provide you with transit service. Can you move that? So our other options include our Sun on Demand service in Ward 1 and our Sunlink streetcar, Route 3, which is on St. Mary's. Route 5 is on Speedway, which is closest to the El Rio neighborhood. Route 9 on Grant Road. And then again, and last but not least, Route 21 along Silver Bell. What's really cool about the service and understanding that, the neighborhood around the El Rio Golf Course and the El Rio Neighborhood Center would no longer have a route going around the golf course. However, you do have stops right there on Silver Bell, and you will still have a stop right there at Speedway and Riverview, in which you can travel west to Pima College and connect with either the Route 9 or Route 3. Transfer at Silver Bell if you're looking for Route 21, or you can go east and then you have an opportunity to transfer either from the Route 9 or the Route 5 to the 16, the 10, or any other route east of this area. And Sun on Demand, the cool thing about Sun on Demand is you can make reservations up to 7 days in advance. There is an app in both the Apple Store and the Android or Google Play Store that you can download. It is called, I wanted to double check what the name is. It is Sun on Demand or On Demand, and it has the little sun that we use for Tran and Sunlink. So that's how we've got this. If you can change the slide, Luce. So our next steps are right now we're doing our public input meetings through Friday, September 12th. Then we have a couple of days to create a report based on all of the comments. You can send us your comments up until September 15th, and then so that we have a couple of days that we can do that report. We provide it for materials to the mayor and council meeting, which is currently scheduled for October 21st. Mayor and council will have a public hearing that night, and you have another opportunity to express your concern or your support of this, and then they will make a decision either that night or the following meeting. And if the discontinuation of Route 22 is approved, it would be effective February 15th. If you can go to the next slide, Luce. This is our third meeting this week, so we have 5 more meetings, both in person, and our last meeting will be on Friday at lunchtime, and it will also be virtual and recorded. Next one. And so we're looking for your feedback. We're always looking for your positive feedback. If it's neutral, you're good with one way or another, we appreciate that. And then we are always appreciative of your negative feedback as well, because that helps us plan in the future. So no matter what kind of feedback you feel that you have, we're asking you to let us know about it tonight, or you can send us an email at centraninfo@tucsonaz.gov, or you can go to our website and the customer service link gives you a form and you can fill in every comment that we receive from this outreach process. Will go in as we receive it to that report as an appendix. So mayor and council will be able to see every comment that we receive. And that is all I have for this evening. So if anyone has a question, we'd be happy to answer. I think you can put your questions in chat. Or Luce, do they have a way to ask in person?
Yeah, they can raise their hand and unmute themselves. We're a small group.
Hi, Suzanne. We have had some people. Last night, there were a number of people at the El Rio Neighborhood Center, and then we had a couple of people today at the Udall Transit Center. And then tonight, just those of you that are here today.
Hi, I'm wondering, the 22 currently runs till almost 11 o'clock at night,
Yes, ma'am.
westbound. Um, is the 5 going to, I think that the 5 stops after 7 o'clock. Is there any plan on extending the time?
We're hoping to extend the time, however, it will not get to 11 o'clock, at least not right now. Um, Depending on what happens in the future with other opportunities for more funding would give us a chance to increase service hours. But there is a plan to increase it by a couple of hours immediately, and then we'll see what we can afford to get it up to at least 10 o'clock during the week.
Okay, thank you.
Your number comes from way over there.
Are there any other questions?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. I haven't got this too organized in my mind, but I'm curious about the on-demand because whenever I like a couple people ask me about the 22 and the loss of the service up there around El Rio,
Mhm.
and I always mention the on-demand, and then they say, well, it takes a long time, you have to wait for it. So I'm
Mhm.
wondering two things about the on-demand. One is, how available is the service being to people in that area? How
Mhm.
much ridership is there? And then I'm curious about cost as far as like, is that funded differently? Is there a per, I mean, I understand that the 22 is considered low performing and therefore I assume that it has a higher sort of cost per ride, but then I'm thinking, isn't the on-demand even a higher cost per ride? So,
Mhm.
do you know what I mean? Can you maybe address
Yep.
that kind of issue?
Sure, I can. Um, the on-demand right now is being funded by the RTA for the most part. Um, It is a smaller vehicle that, based on last week's statistics, what I was trying to do is pull up last week's statistics. Right now, the median wait time, so the average wait time is 22 minutes, 22 to 23 minutes. Sometimes it could be less depending on where the vehicle is in the zone or a little bit longer. But right now it's on par with the 30-minute routes. So if um, wherever you are, you can either call to make a reservation with the Sun Van Reservationist, or you can use the app. I've used it with the app. I prefer to do that because I can tell it where I'm at and where I want to be, and it tracks down and tells me where the vehicle is so I can watch for it. So right now, again, it's just over 22 minutes. The the weekly boardings that we had last week were 587, which is slightly lower than the week before. But since February, we've had a trend upward from an average of 500 boardings per week to 600 boardings per week, which is Route 21 right now is 221 boardings on average per week. So this is much more boardings per week at the moment. We have right now up to 4 vehicles, depending on the demand between Zone 1 and Zone 2. They will cross because the two zones meet at Ronstadt. So there have been occasions where, depending on where they need the vehicle, it will cross the two zones. But on-time performance is about 80%. Which is a little bit less than the fixed route, but still on par with if you were to call Uber or other TNC. And our average boardings per vehicle hour is 2.6 right now. So we're just short of last week, we were at 2.9, just short of 3. So that's actually a really good number
Yeah.
for this type of service.
Right.
Does that help any, Suzanne?
Yep.
I
Yep.
know that the app is, if you haven't tried the app, I was showing it to somebody today. It's really intuitive. It's easier to use it if you're in one of the two zones than if you're outside the zone. And
Okay.
you can make the reservation up to 7 days in advance. If you look at the brochure that we have or online, the little diamonds are time points. And I recommend that if you're transferring from a Sun On Demand to a fixed route bus, use the time point because you have an idea of when that bus will be there. So you can use it both do a trip within the service zone, or you can take a trip outside the service zone by transferring to another bus.
Right. So, and I know you've done a lot of publicity about the on-demand. I'm curious if if they've actually been able to do mailers like to everybody in that, especially in that El Rio zone, like a household by household, just to make sure that everybody knows that that exists. And that would just be a
Yeah.
suggestion. I know that's an expensive outreach tool.
I can definitely pass that on. I don't know, Luce, do you know, did we do any mailings in that area?
No, we haven't, but we can definitely ask about that. They are expensive, but we can definitely ask about that.
Thanks.
I use the on-demand at least 2 to 3 times per week. And I can tell you from my experience, the wait is almost at least an hour or longer each time I try to make a reservation, and I'm using the app.
Okay, I appreciate you letting me know that. I have a couple meetings coming up here with our Sunvan AGM. Sunvan actually operates our on-demand service so that I can let him know that people are experiencing an hour wait. What I have is the weekly statistics, so that's definitely something I'll talk to him about.
Yeah, when I've mentioned it to the drivers, I have often heard, we had an issue with the van, it broke down, so we had to take it back to the yard. So then there are only 2 vans out. Or
Okay.
someone called in sick, so, and they didn't have a replacement, or, so it just is not, from my experience, and I've been using it for 3 years.
Right.
It's not a reliable service.
Okay, I will definitely pass that on. I know that our AGM is relatively new. He's just been in Tucson a month, and on-time performance is one of the items that he's been focusing on. So I'm gonna write myself a note so that I can talk to him about that and see if we can get that improved, because it should be a reliable source like any of our other transit. 1 hour waits. I appreciate you bringing that to my attention.
And I would think that the service would have to increase if the 22 is going, if it's eliminated, to cover that whole section of
Yep.
El Rio.
If the demand continues to rise, then yes, they will be adding more vehicles as they can. Right now, they have 6 available vehicles total, but I'll definitely talk to them about that. I do also anticipate that some people, if they're really close to Speedway or Grant within the neighborhood, would also be able to use those routes as well. And I know that there are a couple of people that I've talked to that use Route 21 back and forth between, they go back and forth between 21 and 22. I'm just hoping that if you have any issues with planning your trip, or you aren't sure how you can get to your destination, that feel free to call our customer service as well, and they can help you plan your trip slightly different than what you've been doing to this point, if this is approved. Again, right now we're collecting information from the community, and we'll be providing that information to mayor and council for them to make the final decision.
Okay, I have a comment. I have 2 siblings. They're visually impaired.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they relied on the bus for
Mm-hmm.
everything. And the way things are going with the bus, people that are riding the bus, it's, to me, I'm a nervous wreck for them. I feel so unsafe for them to be riding it like that with some of the people that they have encountered. So I have stressed to them that I'd rather have them on the demand um, bus the ride rather than getting the city bus
Mm-hmm.
here. And you know, it's just a scary issue. And then I hear with them, the issues about the weight, and if they go to the grocery store, the spoilage with the heat. And I'm just like, working, and I'm like, just wait. And when I get out, it's just no, there's nothing that's really reliable for them. Um, and my brother, the one that he's also visually impaired and other issues with his feet and all. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm so sorry you have to sit there and wait. And they're like, sometimes we're waiting out there in the heat for 45 minutes, an hour. And I'm like,
Okay.
that cannot be. And I hear the same excuses all the time. They tell me, it's always one excuse or another why they were running so far behind.
Okay. Well, let me pass that information on and see what I can find out, because we rely on this to be as reliable as our fixed route service. So I appreciate you giving me that information.
Mhm. Thank you.
And if I can recommend, when my nieces were younger, and I find I do it myself, I tend to sit towards the front or middle of the bus so that I can get the driver's attention if I need to. I realize if they're visually impaired, it's harder, but they can talk to the driver as they get on the bus, and so that they know that they're sitting really close to the front in case they need any help. Our drivers are very good at helping people and letting them know where they need to get off if they let them know ahead of time. Say they're riding the bus and they need to get off at Pima. The driver will let them know that they're there. I don't know if that helps with some of your concerns, but
Well,
I
I,
find
I
that
mean,
drivers to be a good resource.
right, right. And I don't think that's that much of a problem, an issue as where they're going to be getting off. It's just some of the people that they're dealing with on the bus.
Right.
It's just, there's been scary situations, and, um, I hate to see them in that type of circumstances, where they don't even see things coming at them.
Right. I understand. Um, I'm sorry, I don't have the same experience that they're having because when I ride the bus, because as I said, I sit towards the front, so that I haven't experienced the problem, but I understand that others have. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions tonight? Well, again, I appreciate all of you coming and hearing what we have to say, and please call customer service or use the online comment section and let us, in addition to this, let us know your comments and we'll make sure that they go into our packet to the mayor and council.
I have a question. Do you know right now, since school started, what
Mhm.
average daily ridership is in the morning for the school kids riding that 22
I
to school?
I don't have it right this second in front of me. I do know that the information I just gave you of 221 average daily passengers is what I had last month in August after school started. So if you ever want to look at our information, it's always available at centran.com. We do a monthly operations report. The July report should be up any day. We're usually about 3 weeks behind because at the end of the month, then we process all of the data and then they compile it into it. But you can always find our monthly operation reports on suntran.com under reports, plans, and surveys. And then it's broken up by the year. So you're always welcome to see how we're doing. But I can tell you, since July's not up here, I can click on May, which was the end of the school year. And at the end of the school year that you can see online, Route 22. The data is usually found on page, I think it's 10, but let me make sure, because if I tell you a page and then you'll go looking and you won't be able to find it.
Have you reached out to the Spanish speaking community?
I'm sorry. I want to make sure I give you the right information. So page 10 and 11. So this is not showing average daily, it's showing the total ridership. The total ridership in May in comparison to June. So May, the Route 22 had 4,000 riders total, and in June it had 3,800 riders. So I would round it up to 4,000. So that's a total ridership weekdays for the month. But you should usually see average weekday, and I will get that checked. But that's what our total ridership for the route was. Usually the statistic that I look at, because it kind of normalizes the data between routes, is I look at the passenger per hour and the passenger per mile, because it gives me a better idea based on whether a route's really long or really short. It kind of what we call normalizes the data to give it a comparison that's easier to see. And our passenger per mile on Route 22 is 1 passenger per mile. I'm looking at May's data, and it was 0.9 passengers I'm sorry, I had it backwards. Again, I'm trying to do this really quick. 1.1 passenger per mile and 3.3 passengers per trip. So we could have one trip that had 20 people on it and then one trip with nobody on it, but they average out over the course of the day because on weekdays there's 30 trips to 3.3 passengers per trip. So that's what Route 22 is showing us. And it changes from month to month. It's slightly different each month. But those are the numbers that I look at when I'm looking at the different routes. And I can tell you our system total is 2.3 passengers per mile. So some routes have more, some routes have less. And then we have 24.8 passengers per trip over the course of the whole day. So that means, you know, from when it starts in the morning until the evening when it ends, and it could be as late as midnight on some trips. Most routes weekdays end by 11 o'clock.
Mhm.
So that gives you an idea of where we're looking at the different numbers so you can see. I'm sorry, I don't have at my fingertips the average weekday number other than the one I had pulled before yesterday's meeting.
Okay. You know, another thought that just came to my mind is, has, there's a large refugee group over in that El Rio neighborhood area. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
has anyone reached out to them? Because, you know, I just wonder if they're getting this, any of this information. I see a number of them riding the bus.
Right. We have reached out to all of our stakeholders to include the refugee community. And mostly we work with the organizations that are their case managers and work with them. So um, that's the best and fastest way for us to get it out to the community as a whole for the refugee community. And then they pass that information on for us. But we can
Okay.
also make sure that they have, we can talk internally and see if we can get some information directly over at their apartment complex.
Mhm. Okay. Thank you.
I got another one.
Okay.
I'm just wondering about the situation with regard to pedestrian crossings there on Speedway. Um, because if
Where?
folks are going to be using the 5,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and needing to cross to the south side of the road
Mm-hmm.
to go east,
Mm-hmm.
I know that you can do that on the east end of the neighborhood. What about the west end of the neighborhood? I wonder if there's any thought to increasing the pedestrian, um, you know, it's great if you're going west, you're on the north side of the road, but obviously
Mm-hmm.
you have to have access from both sides if you're going to be able to use the
Right.
bus. So I'm just wondering if there's any more than one pedestrian crossing that's signalized. It doesn't look like it's signalized at the west end. And is that something that, you know, you're working together with DTM to um just increase that kind of access? Because it can make a huge difference in whether somebody can do the kind of thing that you were suggesting, which is like, you know, change the way you do your routing
Mm-hmm.
and use the other routes
Mm-hmm.
that are available.
So Riverview definitely has a signal, and I tend to think of Silverbell as the west end, but I understand that there's another street further in that people use. We are always talking with DTM about improving pedestrian safety along all of our routes. I know right now that they have a number of projects going on west of Silverbell, so I'm not sure when they are next working on Speedway. Ian might, I don't know if you have more information than I do. I do know that I know about the Greasewood project right now, and they're working on a couple of other in the area. So, but it's something we always talk to DTM about. I'm sorry, Ian, you're really low.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I was just gonna add to that. I don't know of any specific pedestrian crossing improvements along Speedway in that area right now, but I can ask. It would definitely need to be a hawk given, the width and the, amount of traffic volume on Speedway. So I can check the hawk list and kind of see if there's anything upcoming and
Yeah, like
get
that
back to you
one,
on that because it could change the prioritization, for that
right.
list that we have going if there's more people that are going to be needing to cross along
Like that
that
Speedway in Seminole where there's a,
Right.
right across the street from each other, but you can't really get across that street.
Yeah, I can look into that. Absolutely.
And the light to cross right at Speedway and Riverview is a very short light to cross from the north side of the street to the south side. But yet the traffic going east and west have a very long light. So
So,
if you have a bus coming and you can't get across that street.
Yeah.
Yes.
right. Right,
Yeah,
I
that's why
understand
sometimes a
that.
hawk is
Uh,
preferable for, yeah.
And I
that's true.
learned a trick from one of the DTM guys that I didn't know about until recently was the amount of time that a pedestrian has is set. However, if you press the button, it adds a couple of more seconds, up to 5 seconds, for pedestrians to cross, which you wouldn't think that that's a lot of time, but it's amazing how much more time it is. So please pass that on to all your friends and family that if you actually press the button, even if you get the walk signal, by pressing the button, it extends the walk signal for 2 to 3 seconds up to 5.
Right, I always press the button, but it's still it's quite a significant difference between that light and the east and
Okay, well,
west.
we can definitely pass that on to the DTM guys, the traffic signal guys. They're a different group, and let them
Right.
know, and so that they can check that and make sure that it's got a good amount of time for
Okay,
people to cross.
right, thank you.
And if you ever come across that at any signal in the city, you can send a TDOT concerns email, and they will have somebody check that area and get back to you. They're pretty amazing on how responsive they are in letting you know what they find.
Okay, well, if there's nothing else, we'll go ahead and end the meeting. And then this recording will be on our website tomorrow. So if you have anybody that wanted to see it or didn't have a chance to catch our meeting, we will have these on our website tomorrow. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks, Luce.
Thank you.